الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن سار على سبيله إلى يوم الدين أما بعد. So today inshallah ta'ala we'll be continuing discussing the book Al-Arba'in An-Nawawiyya. So this is this collection of just over 40 hadith that have been collected by An-Nawawi rahimahullah, and we have reached up to a hadith As-Sabi wal-Ishrun, so the 27th hadith in this series. So in last week we started discussing this hadith. So we mentioned in the introduction regarding the hadith was mentioned or read, then also discussed regarding takhrij of the hadith, the sources that I mentioned this hadith. So the author rahimahullah An-Nawawi, that in this particular with this particular hadith, that he did something that contrary to his normal pattern that he mentioned in this particular with this particular hadith. He mentioned two hadith. So ordinarily, normally, we will mention one hadith in each chapter. In this particular chapter, he mentioned two hadith. So the first hadith, that is the main hadith, Hadith al-Asl, that they mentioned, and Nawas ibn Sam'an. And we mentioned the hadith where the Prophet was asked regarding al-bir wal-ithm. Then he mentioned al-bir, husn al-khuluq, wal-ithm, ma haka fi sadrik, wa karihta an yatali alayhi an-nas, al-hadith. So then he mentioned a second hadith that goes along with this, and that hadith is in Sahih Muslim. So the hadith is authentic. Then he mentioned a second hadith, the hadith of Wasiba. So the hadith of Wabisa ibn Ma'bad, that he did mention as a second hadith. So that hadith, as we discussed, that hadith he mentioned, hadith in I mentioned hadith al-Hasan, rawaynahu min musnadi Imamain, Ahmed wa Darimi. So this hadith, he mentioned the hadith is from two sources, from the book of Imam Ahmed, and second, the book of Ad-Darimi. So the second hadith of Wabisa that we have discussed, the hadith, there's some kalam regarding that hadith. So there's some discussion regarding the second hadith, but that hadith will be considered to be a shahid of the first hadith. So considered to be like a supporting hadith for the first hadith of An-Nawas. Then, so in picking up today, inshallah ta'ala, that we start by, I will mention there's some slight difference in the wording. Also the hadith that has been mentioned here, An-Nawawi rahimahullah, that he mentioned the jawab and did not mention the suwal. So on Nawas, that he placed or put a question to the Prophet ﷺ, and this was the answer that was given based upon the question that was asked. So with this, inshallah ta'ala, then you have a slight difference in wording. Some mention as-sadr, some mention an-nafs. So those are the slight difference in wording. So as for the next thing that we'll cover based upon this hadith and our the approach that we follow and the system that we follow, we discuss An-Nawas ibn Sam'an or Sim'an.
So I just got a quick question. So that's allowed for narrators to not put the whole obviously the su'al there was a su'al that's mentioned but not mentioned in Imam Nawawi's book of 40 hadith. But if you go and find out hadith, you see the su'al.
Hey.
Is that what it is?
So at times you might find that what is allowed between the ulama, ikhtisar al-hadith, at times they are allowed to abridge or to mention a portion of the hadith and not mention the entire hadith. So they call it ikhtisar al-hadith. So he's summarizing the hadith by not mentioning the full text of the hadith. Right? So you find this occur with some this occur like Imam Bukhari rahimahullah, all of Imam Sitta, they will do it, and in most cases that so you find that Bukhari, he does this a lot. Abu Dawood and others who at times he might have a full hadith, but they just mention a portion.
Okay.
You understand? So this is something which is generally allowed in most parties. Something which is allowed. So with the hadith we have Nawas ibn Sam'an. So as for his name, the rawi of the hadith. So we have two rawi. Nawas ibn Sam'an, and some mention Sim'an. So both can be used. Sam'an with a sin, with a fatha, or with a kasra. So Nawas ibn Sim'an or Sam'an ibn Khalid ibn Amr, ibn Abdullah, al-Kalbi. Or I mentioned Kilabi. So al-Kilabi. So that's concerning the name of the Sahabi that is mentioned here. So it's Sam'an ibn Nawas ibn Sam'an ibn Khalid ibn Amr ibn Abdullah al-Kilabi, or I mentioned Amiri al-Ansari. And they mentioned that regarding concern this particular Sahabi, An-Nawas, both him and his father are Sahabiyan. So both father and son are Sahabiyan. So even of those who have explained in the book, they mentioned that it is more appropriate that An-Nawawi rahimahullah, he says, radiyallahu ta'ala anhuma. So it's more appropriate for him to say, radiyallahu ta'ala anhuma, based upon his father and son who are Sahabi. So when you find the name of a son, who's the son who's a Sahabi, and also his father, they normally mention them together as radiyallahu anhuma. Nam, we find a lot of times person said Ibn Omar, they'll say radiyallahu anhuma, including him and his father, because both father and son are Sahabiyan, and especially those who are famous. So that's concerning. So he mentioned his father that he came to the Prophet ﷺ, and the Prophet ﷺ concerned the father also with the Sahaba, that he came as a emissary with a group to the Prophet ﷺ, and the Prophet ﷺ made dua for him. The Prophet ﷺ made dua for him. Then it mentioned that as for the son Nawas, then he said to be of a sufa of those who live like in the masjid. And also that he mentioned that he's the Ansari, that Ansari, even though he's so mentioned that he's from Ansari by way of that he maybe similar, he took Islam from the Ansar. Then he mentioned Sahih Muslim that he lived outside Medina and he delayed making hijrah because he wanted to be able to ask question. So because Sahaba came to made hijrah that they will ask less question. So he wanted to ask question. So he spent a year not making hijrah, delay making hijrah, so as he could ask question to the Prophet ﷺ on different matters. And of those things that he wanted to ask regarding al-bir wal-ithm. So they mentioned that he spent like a year asking of question because of that was his talabat al-ilm. So that was his time of seeking of knowledge. And of those asking the Prophet ﷺ question regarding various matters, and of those matters, al-bir, detail regarding al-bir wal-ithm. That it mentioned regarding concerning that the Prophet ﷺ, that he had a sister, or that he mentioned is Asma bint al-Nu'man. Asma bint Nu'man, that the Prophet ﷺ, that he married her, that when she met up with the Prophet ﷺ, when they met, then she kind of somewhat istad that she seek refuge against the Prophet ﷺ. So his wife, he mentioned that his sister, when this later to the Prophet ﷺ married, that when the Prophet ﷺ, they met, then she sought refuge against the Prophet ﷺ. So he sent her back to her parents. Nawas, a sister. Then I mentioned second Sham, and where he died in Sham. So he reside or went to settle in Sham, and he died in Sham. So she mentioned when she met the Prophet, says, "A'udhu billah minka." So when she met the Prophet, says, "A'udhu billah minka." So it's the other regarding concern. So she seek refuge with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala against the Prophet ﷺ, who had married her, just married her. Then he kind of somewhat sent her back to her parents. So I mentioned that second Nawas, Sham, and where he died in Sham. His hadith can be found in Adab al-Mufrad by Imam al-Bukhari, not in Sahih al-Bukhari. Also his hadith can be found in Sahih Muslim and also in Sunan al-Arba. The second Sahabi that is mentioned, Wabisa ibn Ma'bad al-Asadi. Wabisa ibn Ma'bad al-Asadi, that they mentioned that Yuqanna, that is kunya, it is Abu Salim. Also it is said his kunya is Abu Sa'id, and also is yuqal, and also is referred to as Abu Sha'tha. Abu Sha'tha. So he Wasiba, that he and a group around 10, that they came to the Prophet of Islam, like a group from his tribe, Bani Asad, Ibn Khuzaymah, and of 10 of them, he was one of those who came to the Prophet of Islam, and they accepted Islam from the Prophet of Islam, that group, and then they went back to their country, or went back to their city. So they came to the Prophet of Islam, accepted Islam, a group of them of 10, including Wabisa. Then when came to accept Islam, then after accepting Islam, then they went back to their city. As for him, mentioned Nazala, Jazira, he lived in a peninsula, and then he moved on to Sham, to the place of Sham, where eventually he died there. He eventually died in Sham, and he lived for over, to say about 90. He lived there, let's see the year, over 90 years. And he was buried there. You say he was known regarding concerning his piety, regarding al-buka, and also ata. He was known to be one who would weep a lot, and also he was known for his kindness. He was a person who was known for his kindness. Those are concerning those two Sahabi. So I mentioned this hadith that is mentioned here, to the extent that of those who explain al-Arba'in, that al-Haythami, so Haythami, that al-Shafi'i, that his book is called Fathul Mubin, that he mentioned, as we said, that so said that these two, that the normal, that in this chapter he mentioned two hadith, when ordinarily he'll mention one hadith. So the first one being authentic, and the second one being, we said, like as a supporting hadith. And sometimes the ulama of hadith, they follow that practice. So sometimes they will follow this practice, that we have an authentic hadith is mentioned, then after they will mention hadith with similar meaning, but it is maybe weaker in strength, but it has the same meaning. So at times they will follow that practice. But both hadith are considered, so it's two hadith, but they are considered to be one hadith by way of meaning. So by way of the meaning, they are very similar, but by way of the hadith themselves, they are considered to be two separate hadith. One inside Muslim, and the other in Al-Musnad, and also Ad-Darimi, and both from different companions. So both are two separate hadith. So as for the hadith, they mentioned the hadith regarding like a title of the hadith, or the mawdu of this hadith. So as for the topic of this hadith, it is, they mentioned tarif wal bayan ma huwa al bir wal ithm. So the hadith is discussed concerning what can be defined as bir, and also the sign, and that's alamatu, and also know some of the signs of what is, or signals of what is bir, and also the hadith to explain as to what is al-ithm, what is sin, and also some of the signals or signs of sins. So that's the topic of this hadith. So al-Haythami, they mentioned regarding what had been said. So we said the topic of hadith regarding defining, clarifying what is al-bir, and the signs of bir, and second, what is ithm, is opposite, and some of the signals of al-ithm. As for, they said that what had been said by the hadith, Haythami, that he mentioned in Fathul Mubin, هذا hadith min Jawami al-Kalim. That is hadith from Jawam that is from Jawam of the comprehensive speech of the Prophet of Islam. So this will be considered to be of the comprehensive speech. They refer to as Jawami al-Kalim, where few words but the meaning is vast. So few words but the meaning is somewhat very vast as to what can be taken from the hadith, or carry very important meaning with just few words. But I mentioned, well, awjaz, but I said that even so, this is awjazuha, that even concerning this hadith, he used very few words to explain what is bir and what is ithm. So very few words as to defining al-bir, and very few words defining al-ithm. Then I mentioned that فَإِذْ al-bir kalimat al-jami', then he started to define concerning what is al-bir, and we'll discuss concerning that matter. So generally concerning of the ulama, that they class this hadith as being of those hadith of Jawami al-Kalim, of the Prophet ﷺ. Very few words, but the meaning very vast, and also that in this particular hadith, that the wording that are used are very few. Very few words are used, especially in the first hadith. They mention al-bir husnul khuluq, and that's bir. Very few words. And for the next matter that is discussed, is defining in the hadith concerning defining what is al-bir and also what is al-ithm. So linguistically, so before we go into that, so as for the hadith concerning what the meaning of the hadith, they said the meaning of the hadith concerning ashar ijmali. So the meaning of the hadith, ijmali. So the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, he explained as ask, what is al-bir and what is ithm. Then he can understand the Prophet ﷺ, he can explained that al-bir is husnul khuluq. They said that as for the meaning, so explained concerning bir is husnul khuluq, then also regarding concerning that bir is the person's character and behavior. Then also he explained what is al-ithm, ma haka fi nafsik or sadrik, that's something that disturbs the person's heart or the person internally, he feels discomfort within himself, then that's a sign that something is wrong, al-ithm. Or the other thing the person can use as a criteria that he mentioned, karehta and tatali alayhi an-nas, the people that you feel discomfort, you would dislike for the people to know of this of you. So you feel somewhat shame if this will become known publicly or to be known to others. So these are signs of, or what is defined, or signs of what is al-ithm. So I said it's not as for al-husn khuluq, it would include in general, in brief, things that relate to the person's action, meaning the person's is description, the person is description, his character, and also his behavior. Also husnul khuluq will include concerning the personal relationship between himself and his Lord subhanahu wa ta'ala. Also third, husnul khuluq will also include regarding that person relation between those around him, those people which are immediately around him, from the Muslim, his family, his neighbors. So that would be that's also of husnul khuluq. The way that he behave is dealing with people who are immediately around him, his family, neighbors, friends, the Muslim. Then also is dealing with the general nas, whether Muslim or non-Muslim, the wider community. All of this is a part of this matter regarding husnu al-khuluq and how the person is measured. Then I mentioned al-ithm, as mentioned, where a person that he feels discomfort within himself. So the person is that goes back to the person's heart, something which is internal, where the person feels discomfort within himself, he feels concern, discomfort, he feel uneasiness about a matter. Then also it mentioned that that also externally, that a person, he would be shame, he feel shame if others were to know of this thing of him. If he some type of shame regarding others knowing of this of him. The next matter that is discussed, mufradat al-kalima. So the mention regarding concerning al-bir. So al-bir, so we discuss concerning what is defined as bir and what is defined al-ithm. So as for al-bir, so it can be pronounced, so you have al-bir bil-fata, bil-ba, or if you have bil-fata or bil-kasra. So bil-fata, al-bar, meaning land, wal-bir, piety, or as we'll explain what is al-bir. So we discuss concerning things of bir, goodness, piety, and the likes. So I said al-bir, linguistically, it means concerning al-bir, lugatan, huwa al-khair, wal al-fadl. So al-bir, linguistically, it will take the meaning of thing which is good, al-khair, and also things of al-fadl, things of virtue. Nam, so bir, linguistically, it will take on the meaning of thing which is good and thing which is of some type and things of virtue. And also a second, so that's concerning linguistically, it can take on a second meaning also, did al-uquq. Also bir could mean did al-uquq, which is the person who's bir regarding concerning good behavior towards others, wal uquq, the person who misbehave and does not treat others well. Uquq. So you have uquq al-walidain and you have bir al-walidain. So al-bir al-walidain, the person who treats his parents well and attend to their needs. And uquq al-walidain, where a person that he does not treat his parents well. Does not treat his parents well. Then also a third meaning of al-bir that I mentioned, al-ihsan. So al-bir meaning al-ihsan. And Ibn Athir rahimahullah, that so a third meaning Ibn Athir that called al-bir khair. That's no. It says Ibn Athir. So it carries those different meaning. It carry those different meaning. So you can have the meaning of bir linguistically, al-khair, wal-fadl, what did, al-uquq, so opposite uquq. And also it could mean al-ihsan. Then al-bir, sometimes the definition of the ulama, they use in the books, they said, defining things. At times they said, the definition of this word linguistically, break it down, what is the meaning linguistically, ordinarily in the language. So you have those books, so the person wants to know the linguistic meaning, go back to the books of qamus or ma'ajim, which are dictionaries. So you have Arabic dictionaries from small to large. Now you have dictionary that goes into volumes. So that's the linguistic meaning as to how this word is understood linguistically in the language. Then the next thing of a word they will discuss is regarding the meaning istilahan. So istilahan, that this word now have taken on a particular meaning according to how it is now looked upon by as a particular group of people. With me? So take on a special, a defined meaning based upon a particular, maybe, group of people that they might define this word as such and such. They say istilahan. So concerning that, also amongst the Muslim, Islam amongst the ulama, that they have also given al-bir a particular meaning based upon how it is used in the text. So of those meaning, istilahan, which is the ulama defining, giving a definition to al-bir, that al-bir, they find an ikhtilaf between the ulama or tanawwa. They say ikhtilaf, lakin tanawwa al-ulama regarding how they defined al-bir. Al-bir qal, ba'd ulama, that they mention al-bir istilahan, al-bir salah. So bir salah. So something which is upright. So al-bir salah. So something which is upright, sound. Second, al-bir, al-khair. That bir also can take in a meaning, al-khair, things of goodness. And he mentioned that Ibn Manthur, he mentioned la alam tafsiran ajma min. I don't know of any other definition that is more comprehensive than this definition of saying that bir, it is al-khair. A fourth definition that is put forward by the ulama, al-bir, khair ad-dunya, wal-khair al-akhirah. So al-bir of the ulama who define al-bir, khair ad-dunya wal-akhirah. Wa khair ad-dunya, as how they define it in khair in this dunya, they mention ma yasra Allah ta'ala li'abd, those things Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have made easy for his servant by way of guidance, through guidance. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala of khair ad-dunya, meaning al-bir of khair of dunya, in the things of the dunya, by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala making it easy regarding the guidance of that servant. Also the ni'mah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the bounties Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bestowed upon that servant. So that's concerning wa khairat, and also things of khairat and things of goodness in general. So that's concerning khair by way of relating to the dunya, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have granted guidance for that servant. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have blessed them with his bounties, and also opened the door of khair, of good for that servant. Khair al-akhirah, the khair of the akhirah, huwa al-fawz bin na'im ad-dahim. So the person who's successful by being granting the everlasting na'im, which is fil jannah. So the person who is successful in the akhirah by being granted al-jannah. This is khair al-akhirah. So al-khair al-akhirah is the person who enters al-Jannah and remain there forever. So that's concerning of the meaning that is given, the meaning of al-bir, of the meaning of al-bir. There's a fourth other meaning that ulama have mentioned regarding al-bir istilahan. Al-bir at-taha was-sidq. So another meaning of al-bir istilahan at-ta'at or ta'a, being doing acts of obedience, so obedience, was-sidq, and truthfulness. And other the meaning al-bir yakuna bimana as-sila. So also al-bir, there's a thing of having good relation. Bimana al-lutf, the person who is gentle. Also husn as-suhbah, so wal-ishra, the person who deal with others, who live good with others and have good relation with others. So that all are part of the mention. So those are all wa bimana taha. So they mention that these are concerning that matter that relates to al-bir. So this meaning regarding al-bir being ataha, they mention yurad bihi fi'l jami' at-ta'at al-zahira wal-batina. So the person al-bir also take the meaning with a person that they involve in carrying out all acts of obedience, whether those are external or internal, acts of obedience. So that's concerning meaning of al-bir. The next of matters regarding, and we'll discuss that, they mention that Ibn Rajab rahimahullah يقال then as for the Prophet ﷺ, so the man says, so our next definition of a word, so we have lugatan, a word sometimes will be defined, the linguistic meaning, lugatan. Second we say is what? Istilahan. And the third, shar'an. So shar'an is as it is defined by the Sharia. So I find that that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala may define certain things in a particular way, or the Prophet ﷺ may define certain things in a particular way. So in this definition, al-bir, as the Prophet ﷺ defined, is what? Husnul khuluq. So the Prophet ﷺ, and then he went on to explain, and also al-ithim, he went on to explain what is al-ithim. So that's the Prophet ﷺ defining these words. So the person said that, what is al-bir? And one was to say, husnul khuluq. Then you're given a definition the Prophet ﷺ gave. So you're still on point in that definition. You're still on point with that definition, because the Prophet ﷺ, that's how he described al-bir. And as well discuss other things. In addition to that, that by way of, before we go to al-ithm, that they have mentioned concerning itlaqat, al-bir, so ways in which al-bir is used, like in the text. So the word al-bir is used in the text of Quran wa Sunnah. So what kind of meaning can be derived, or in what meaning it is to be taken in that context? With me? So al-bir in the text, how it is to be understood, and what meaning it takes in some of those contexts. Is the same meaning across the board, or might take a slight difference in meaning. So al-bir, that at times may be used regarding yutlaq al-bir, or yurad bihi al-ihsan, that meaning of al-bir, al-ihsan. So you might find, which is ihsan, goodness towards others. Goodness towards others. When a person got man abar, when the Prophet ﷺ was asked, man abar, when a person asks who the person should be more good towards, show goodness towards them. Nam, faqal, ummuk. The Prophet ﷺ mentioned, your mother. And the question was repeated and says, ummuk. 3 times, in a sense, abuka. So the Prophet ﷺ, when the Prophet ﷺ was asked regarding al-bir in this context, man abar, who should I do show bir towards? In this context mean al-ihsan, those that you should treat well. Nam, so that would mean your mom is deserving of that type of good relation you should have towards your mother. And this was repeated 3 times in the mention. ثم أباك ثم الأقرب بالأقرب. So albir in that context mean ihsan, opposite of uquq, where a person treat others well. And of those who are deserving this type of treatment, first in line would be one's mother and parents in general. A second itlaq or meaning, another meaning that bir can also take on, can mean, the word bir can take on the meaning of al-jannah. So the word al-bir can take on the meaning, or can take the meaning of al-jannah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned in his book by stating, لن تنالوا البر حتى تنفقوا مما تحبون. لن تنالوا البر, that you will not achieve al-bir. لن تنالوا, that you will not achieve al-bir. They mention al-bir. So bir in this context is not just doing good, it is al-jannah. لن تنالوا البر, meaning al-bir, you will not achieve al-jannah. حتى تنفقوا مما تحبون, until you spend of that which you love. So bir in this context, it means what? Jannah. It means Jannah. So encouragement of those things to achieve of Jannah is the person who give fi sabilillah. That the person that he gives fi sabilillah. As mentioned by As-Suddi, that al-bir means al-Jannah. Also al-bir can also take on a meaning concerning al-qubul. So also bir in some context can take on a meaning, in text can take on a meaning of al-qubul. The Prophet mentioned Hajjul Mabrur, Hajjul Mabrur lays lahu jaza illa jannah. Hajj Mabrur. So Mabrur in that case concerning Hajjul Maqbul, its reward is al-jannah. So the accepted. So the word concerning Mabrur meaning not a good Hajj, meaning an accepted Hajj. So that's concerning, so it can have that meaning, that context, in that context. So it takes on different meaning, and also bir can also consider husn al-ishra, the person living with other well, living with other well. So those are some examples regarding al-bir and a different context, are ways that it at times may be used. The next word is al-ithm. And I mentioned also al-bir also can mean, who said at-ta', as mentioned by subhanahu wa ta'ala, lakin al-bir. So Allah mentioned in Surah Al-Baqarah, so we mentioned before, lan tanalu al-bir, that Surah Al-Imran, that also bir meaning at-ta', acts of obedience, wal-iman. ولكن البر من آمن بالله واليوم الآخر الآية. So can I somewhat list things of al-bir, things of iman billah واليوم الآخر وملائكته. So these are things that relates to al-faith, an acts of obedience. So the person who wants to achieve al-bir, al-iman, solid, correct iman, then a person has to have of these things. So obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala require for the person to adopt these things or believe in these things. So that's concerning al-bir. As for al-iman, al-ithm, aywa. So al-ithm, they mentioned concerning al-ithm linguistically. So al-ithm, ya'atham, that ithm, that go back to madad athama. So go back to athama, that it gives the meaning of bati' wa ta'akhur. So have the meaning of being slow, bati', being slow, and also ta'akhur, and for one to delay, procrastinate, as we say. Another meaning. So ithm is to procrastinate, delaying of things, and also being slow at things. That's linguistically. So they mentioned that naqata athima. They mentioned that linguistics said naqata, like the camel, athama. That means the camel is slow. The camel is slow. Or it delaying is being procrastinating and the likes. So they mentioned that al-ithim, take the meaning concern al-ithim, with a person that is slow in doing of good and delay doing of good. Nam, so ithim is the person who delay in doing things of good or slow in doing things of good. So that's concerning al-ithim linguistically. So they mention bati and thawab, the person that is slow in trying to gain rewards, gaining of reward. So also ithim, then meaning concern is that linguistically, istilahan, that the word ithim amongst the ulama take on a meaning concerning a dhanb, that person who is involved in a dhanb, sin, which is mean concern then, an yamal ma la yuhilla. Istilahan. So the meaning now they're discussing al-ithim, istilahan. Ithim, one word, dhanb, which says sins or sin, qil, which is defined in this context as an yamal ma la yuhilla, for a person to do something that is not permissible for him. So doing that which is not permitted. Doing that which is not permitted. Al-Qurtubi rahimahullah, he mentioned ithim, al-fi'l alladhi yastahaq alayhi sahibuhu al-dhanb. So Al-Qurtubi, he mentioned al-ithim, fi'l, an act that being done, the person is the one carrying out the act is deserving to be criticized or deserving falling into something which is blameworthy. So one doing something that deserves for the person to be called out for it and to be criticized, and doing something which is considered to be blameworthy. That is al-ithim. Then Ibn Hajar al-Haythami. So you have Ibn Hajar al-Haythami and also Haythami. You have Haythami or Haythami. You have a few names similar. But Ibn Hajar al-Haythami, he mentioned al-ithim kalimatun jama. So it's a comprehensive word لجميع أفعال الشر والقباح. It's a comprehensive word that will include anything that is evil and qabih, we say something which is not displeasing, but another word, ugly, disgusting type of thing. كبيرها وصغيرها, whether something which is major or minor. A كلمة جامع لجميع أفعال الشر والقباح خبيرها وصغيرها, whether those things are small or great. So any act, so there's a minor act or a major act, so anything that's considered to be those acts of evil and those things that are shunned actions, then that is al-ithim. So the Prophet ﷺ, in this kind of somewhat, he gave us alama of ithim. We mentioned, well, ithim are defined, ma haka fi nafsik, something that disturbs you inside. I mentioned nafsik, sadrik. In the next narration, clarify, as-sadr, that is what is meant by inside your heart. So internally, ithim, sin, is where a person becomes, is affected negatively. And then mention, وَكَرِحْتَ أَنْ يَطَّلِعَ عَلَيْهِ النَّاسِ, and also you would not like for the people to know this of you, or this to be become public information. Then also, as that's concerned, I mentioned al-itham ma haka fi sadrik wa taraddad fi sadr wa in iftahman aftaka an-nas, that even the people was to pass pass on judgment regarding this matter, you still feel uncomfortable about this. So regarding concerning ithm, general concerning ithm, that it goes back with a person that he feels discomfort regarding that matter, whether it's something that said to him by others or something that he's involved in. Whether something passed on or said by others or something that he himself is involved in. They mentioned so with al-bir, that wal-ithm, of the things that I mentioned, or what can be mentioned next, is regarding the thing that is mentioned is regarding alamat al-bir wal-ithm, signs, indicators of bir wal-ithm. So for a person somewhat to judge whether something is al-bir, accepted, or something that is unaccepted, which is al-ithm, or the person to judge those things, or the person, what criteria can be used to judge those things. So the hadith they mentioned regarding concerning that the Prophet ﷺ, they mentioned that the criteria which he gave like a criteria for ithm. So he said that maf'um al-mukhalifa, according to the ulama of usul al-fiqh, they have something called maf'um al-mukhalifa. So what is mentioned, just look at it from the opposite way. With me? Then that's called mafhum al-mukhalafa. So you're seeing things from the opposite side, from the opposite angle. So they mentioned regarding what is al-ithm, he mentioned ma haka fi sadrik, something that disturb you inside. Nam. Then said that mafhum al-mukhalafa mean that if something that acts of this. So if you feel at ease regarding something, then that's a sign that that thing is acceptable and palatable. Nam, what's that? So, ithm, if you feel discomfort from inside, so a way to measure it is something which is internal. If you feel discomfort inside, within yourself, then that's a sign that that thing is something that you should be mindful of. It's a question sign. Because you're not feeling that level of ease within yourself. You feel discomfort. Nam, so that's a sign that something needs to be looked into for the least. Is that matter needs to be looked into further. And not for you to, and for you to leave that matter until you have that, you feel that level of ease, whether to go forward or to leave it. But not for the person, if you have that discomfort, you should not go forward. Because I said that is from the fitrah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, where within that, who said that within what we are created, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us some type of, at times, thing that we can identify when something is not going, something which is not right. Now that's within the fitrah of the human being. In something, not in everything, but in something. But you find that that can be corrupted. That fitrah. So you find that as a child in their fitrah, a child, they know to be honest. That's why people say, don't say certain things in front of a child, because when they speak, they're honest. They say it as they heard it and as they see it. So they have said, use the word innocent. By way of they're honest, that's their fitrah of a person. To be their fitrah, to be honest, to speak the truth. But it becomes, as it can be corrupted. It can be corrupted. So, of the fitrah of the person at times, that can be as an indicator regarding right and wrong. So the Prophet said to the person to look to himself regarding certain things. So, if one feels discomfort regarding a matter, then that's a sign that the person should not go forward on that thing. And to verify that thing, look into that thing further. But not to go forward until either the matter has been clear, where they're clear by way of leaving that thing alone, because now clarity have come to kind of somewhat reinforce that this thing is actually off. Then he mentioned the second way of identifying regarding al-ithm, which is karihta an yatali alayhi an-nas, where the person would not want the people to know of this, of you. You have done this thing, you kind of somewhat, you would not that information to be exposed or to be known to the public. then that's a sign that there's something wrong. There's something which is wrong. So something that you're trying to cover up. Nam? Sorry?
Say someone done something before Islam,
Aywa.
and then they come into Islam, and then somehow that is something what they done before Islam comes up. How do they move forward from that? Say something like they're not so proud of what they've done in Jamaica, but it comes up while they're
After Islam.
yeah.
Now, that it may varies. As for something the person did in Jahiliyyah, now before Islam, then those things that are with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala may not be used against them. Now, so by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, those things are pardoned. But it may be a thing that even though it's something you're pardoned Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but as for is dealing with the people, now it may varies. As for in those situations, it depending on what is that particular case and how to approach it, what's the best way to approach it. So I think that may become known or become brought back into the light after the person become Muslim, is depending on what that thing was, that situation you see, what's the best way to deal with it. You understand? So it may varies. So in that case, we require knowing exactly what was that case and how to deal with it. So that's the thing. So with ithm, we said that two things regarding al-ithm, or two of the signs of ithm that is mentioned, things that disturb the person, and also things that the person would not want that thing to become public knowledge. So it varies concerning so more in light of things that a person does while in Islam. So the Muslim, where now is so the mark is different than a person was in Jahiliyyah. So before Jahiliyyah, the mark may be different as for standard that a person might uphold, may be different in Jahiliyyah, that things that are acceptable, than in Islam. You might have a different criteria as to what is acceptable and what is not. So regarding concern, so this concerns the hal of the person now in Islam regarding this matter, where ithm, where it becomes something can be sinful or something which is blameworthy, that thing becoming now public knowledge. So that may vary regarding that matter. So is with a person, that a sense the person he will feel somewhat at the person level of a wara, with a person that he has certain principles, certain that a wara, he becomes is mindful of things that are exposed regarding things that he's involved in. And things that, in a sense of, he knows that there's things that he shouldn't cross. So the things that he feels shame up there, things that he knows are things that are wrong, that he has done, that have now come to the public attention. That's why he's ashamed. Because if something which is good, so if something which is good, then a person there's no shame in this. If something which is good, that one I've done, so the person may do something that is good, but he wants to keep it private. Now, something between him and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala or those people involved. So something that is only restricted to a limited amount of people regarding that good, and he want to keep it within that circle. But then, qadrullah masha, it become known to the public. It become exposed or become known to others. He's not to feel shame, but he just want to keep those things private. So not about shame, it's just that he want to keep those things private. But those who know, khalas, but doesn't need to explain himself and to give excuse and feel shame for that thing because it's something of good. So that's per se not an issue. So the issue is when the person fall into things that are sinful, wrong, that goes against Islam, things of ma'asi, that now he wants to, that he wouldn't want the public to know. And those acts may vary. And those things may vary depending on the person. So those things may vary, and those things in general fall under the umbrella of sins, wal ma'asi, that a person would not want the public to know. And second, it may vary with one person to another, where the expectation from some may be higher. When if that common person, a normal Muslim do it, you may overlook it and deal it in a particular way if it is done by a person of standing. If it's done by a person of standing, then it becomes that maybe a different action need to be taken. A different action may be taken because it's a person of standing who have done this, commit this act. So it requires a different approach. So those are concerned that matters regarding this hadith. Due to time, that we'll stop here and continue next week. Hopefully we can end the hadith by next week. وبالله تعالى توفيق وهذه السبيل والآخرة الحمد لله آمين. أي ندم أي
shame or feeling ashamed. Is it something praiseworthy? Is it praiseworthy or blameworthy?
Shame says nadam in by way of in by way of the person did something which is wrong.
No.
So I said that so even a nadam as a part of a tawbah is one of the criteria.
No.
The person can say you did something wrong, you should feel remorse. No. Or that you did something wrong, at least acknowledge that wrong. Now as a part of the tawbah. So the person might do something wrong and you still feel good about it. Then that show that the person tawbah is going to be difficult for them to make tawbah because they still pleased with that act. They don't feel any form of remorse. Feel like what they did was wrong. They're still trying to justify it. Then tawbah is going to be difficult for them to make tawbah because they might see it as wrong, but there's no remorse. No. So all the criteria of tawbah may not be in place. So of the criteria of tawbah and nadam ala ma waqa fi. Aywa.
Are there dictionaries that focus on like the meaning of shar'an of different words?
Yeah, you have dictionary, yeah. You have some dictionary of that type. Hey. So you might find that I said, so you find a dictionary, of those type. That usul, like the ulama of dictionary like the Mortans al-Fiqh and the likes. You'll find that, especially concerning contemporary, will find those dictionaries that are there regarding Islamic. And there's a few of them. So you have, especially concerning that, so you have dictionary of that type. You have a few of that type.
Last week you mentioned that Ibn Rajab criticized the second hadith by Wabisa. The reason was it was considered a shahid hadith, has different wording. Is that the criticism or the support of the hadith?
Sorry?
You mentioned
Ibn Rajab says that the criticism of the hadith regarding concern that inqita in the isnad, and also there's a rawi that is mutakallim fi. So the criticism regarding the hadith, the second hadith of Wabisa, that there's inqita, that there's a breakage in the isnad, and second that of the narrators, those who are spoken about. As for difference in wordings, so the wording of the hadith, they don't per se is a criticism of an-nafs wa tatma'inna wa as-sadr. You understand? Those words that wouldn't be the criticism. So the criticism is more concerning that the isnad of the hadith. So the criticism is that the isnad of the hadith by way of certain narrators being spoken about, and also inqita in that isnad. And the second one, aywa. So that inshallah ta'ala will end. Wabillahi ta'ala tawfiq.